So, ladies and gentlemen, we are 1 week until the NBA season comes to a close. Yes, the 2024-2025 season is almost wrapping up, and it's kind of crazy because this season has went by so fast, and we have had some banger trades, some banger moments, and some banger outbreaks. Victor Wembanyama having one of the better sophomore seasons we've seen in the NBA. Jason Tatum trying to reclaim his respect after the 2024 NBA playoffs. We also have the Luka Doncic trade, De'Aaron Fox going to the San Antonio Spurs. This season has been crazy. But there's one thing I want to talk to you guys about, because I feel as though there are 5 underdog players going into this playoffs that I feel like you guys should watch more. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you sit back, take some notes, and make sure you pay attention to these guys coming into the playoffs, because here are the 5 underdogs going into the 2025 NBA playoffs. Let's get right into it. The first player I want to talk about is a player that does not get talked about enough, and that's Andrew Nembhard. When we talk about the Indiana Pacers, I feel as though they have only been as big of a conversation when Tyrese Halliburton was struggling to begin the year. Ever since Tyrese Halliburton has gotten back in groove, the Pacers had looked like one of the better teams in the NBA, with one of the best offenses in the NBA and a much improved defense. And a lot of that is because of Andrew Nembhard, with his point of attack defense, his athleticism at the point of attack, and his strength as a guard. He's going to have to worry about a lot of matchups that the Indiana Pacers could possibly play. It's going to be Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, guys of that aspect. Right now, they're going to be playing the Milwaukee Bucks, and since Dame won't be playing, he may not have that big of a matchup to play on the perimeter. No Chris Middleton, no Damian Lillard. The Bucks offense outside of Giannis is really going to struggle. But in the second round, if they were to beat the Pacers, they will be going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think Andrew Nembhard is going to really show his point of attack defense against a guy like Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland. And not only that, I believe Andrew Nembhard is a very underrated offensive player. Yes, he's not shooting the 3 ball perfectly, 30% from 3, but he is very efficient inside the arc. He's a really good mid-range shooter, about 47% from there. He's really good in the paint non-restricted area. I believe that's also 40+% in that area as well. And he's also finishing 72% inside the restricted area. When you have a guy that can shoot from the mid-range and also have the ball handle that he does, he can really get anywhere he wants inside the arc, which I think is something that is extremely valuable. The Indiana Pacers make their living offensively by having multiple guys who can do something with the ball once they get it, whether it's Tyrese Halliburton, TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard, or even Pascal Siakam. All these guys can make decisions once the ball becomes in their hands. Tyrese Halliburton can make quick decisions, and he can put the ball on the floor. Same with Andrew Nembhard. Same with Pascal Siakam. And some of the guys that may be limited, guys like Miles Turner, he's a great lob threat, and he can stretch the floor. Aaron Nesmith can also stretch the floor and finish at the basket. These guys make a living off of having 5 guys on the court that can make decisions and kill you by attacking closeouts and reacting to the defense once the defense is in rotation. And I also think Andrew Nembhard can really take advantage of that, because when we saw in the playoffs last year, we saw Andrew Nembhard go off. Why is that? Because Andrew Nembhard is a guy that can put the ball on the floor consistently and hit these difficult shots inside the arc. Now, I don't know how his 3-point shot is going to translate, but I am 100% confident that Andrew Nembhard is going to be able to make tough shots in the postseason, and he's going to be able to defend the best guard on the opposing team. I'm going to be talking about the next 2 players as a tandem because they play for the same team, and that is Al Horford and Sam Hauser. These are 2 guys that come off the bench for the Boston Celtics, and I think they're going to be very valuable to what Boston is trying to do. Last year, Sam Hauser did not get a lot of minutes in the postseason, but he did show in the minutes that he did play is he can be a very good defender and a very good 3-point shooter, something the Boston Celtics are trying to have in their rotation. Last season, Sam Hauser only averaged about 15 minutes per game in the playoffs. I would expect that to go up to about mid-20s, maybe 22 to 25 minutes per game, because he's averaging about 22 minutes a night in the rotation now for the Boston Celtics. And with how the Boston Celtics play, there's going to be nights where Jaylen Brown's not making his shots from the outside. Jason Tatum's not making his shots from the outside. Even Derek White or Drew Holiday or Kristaps Porzingis. I think Sam Hauser has the size. I think he stands at about 6'7" or 6'8". He can come in at the 2 or the 3 to really knock down shots for the Boston Celtics. And he also adds that size and that defense to where he can't get hunted on the opposing end of the floor. And the next player for the Boston Celtics I want to talk about is Al Horford. Now, I know a lot of people are very aware of Al Horford, but I don't think people still give the credit to Al Horford that he truly deserves. We've seen in multiple big games, Al Horford is able to come off the bench and be a very key rotational player for the Boston Celtics. He is considered one of the best rotation players in the entire NBA at 38 years old. I've seen multiple games where Al Horford has dominated matchups on switches against perimeter players, guys like Luka Doncic in the matchup they had against the Los Angeles Lakers. Every time they tried to attack Al Horford on the perimeter, Al Horford held his weight in the finals and in the game against LA. And I just think Al Horford contributes to what the Boston Celtics are really trying to do and how teams are able to win championships, because I believe there is one thing that we talk about with championship teams, and I feel as though all these contenders have it, and that's roster versatility or lineup versatility. When we look at the Cleveland Cavaliers and how they can stagger having one starting level center on the floor at all times. Same with the Boston Celtics and how they're able to do that. And the same with the Oklahoma City Thunder and how they're able to do that. They can match any scheme that's thrown at them, and they can outmatch every scheme that's thrown at them. That's how you build a championship contender. And with Al Horford being able to knock down open shots, play down low, and play on the perimeter, he's going to be very pivotal to what the Boston Celtics are trying to do, which is repeat. And you can also be really versatile with Al Horford in the lineup. You can play him at the 4 next to Kristaps Porzingis and you still lose no shooting. They can have a really good offensive and defensive, or a really good two-way lineup with Al Horford on the floor if they want to go big or smaller, quotation marks, because if you want to do a lineup with Derek White, Sam Hauser, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, and Kristaps Porzingis, you can do that. If you want to run a lineup with Jrue Holiday, Derek White, Sam Hauser, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford, you can also do that. So what I believe is you need to pay attention to these two guys, because the way that they're going to be able to make these lineups so versatile for the Boston Celtics, it's going to go under the radar in these playoffs, because I think these playoffs are going to be crazy, and I feel as though you should pay attention to what these guys are going to do for the Boston Celtics rotation. It's not always going to be 20-point games. We know we're not going to be able to get that from Sam Hauser and Al Horford consistently, or probably much at all. But I want you guys to pay attention to the possessions they have when they're switched on to guards, or when Al Horford switched on to guys on the wing, or how well Sam Hauser does when he's guarding guys like Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland, or in this playoff run where they could see guys like Paolo and Franz Wagner. Just see how Sam Hauser is going to react when he has to play against some of these better perimeter players, and watch how Al Horford reacts when he has to play a guy like Bam or Paolo or Tyrese Halliburton or Pascal Siakam or Evan Mobley or Donovan Mitchell when they do get the possessions that they are switched onto these players. If we just take a look real quick at what Sam Hauser is doing, they're a plus 2% true shooting when Sam Hauser is on the floor, just being still that efficient offense, plus being a negative 3.1% turnover percentage, which means he's taking care of the ball and even making the team better with their offensive rebounding percentage that he also provides. If we take a look at their overview, they're still positive 9 offensively when he's on the floor, and a positive 2 if I round up, and a positive 11 net rating when he is on the floor. And this is in 1,200 minutes, so in 2,000 minutes off the floor. So Sam Hauser isn't necessarily affecting their lineup. Same could be said with Al Horford. If you have multiple guys on the floor at all times that can always keep your offense as a positive, same thing with Al Horford and Sam Hauser. You can almost throw them into any lineup that you need them to, and they can still thrive. I think that's extremely important. So if you take a look at what he's doing, they're a plus 7.4 offensively and the plus 4.6 defensively with a 12 net rating. So the Boston Celtics are always going to be a positive team when these guys are on the floor. Now, the Oklahoma City Thunder statistically have been one of the best defenses we've ever seen. And I feel as though with all those perimeter defenders and all those rim protectors on the team, we got guys like Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, all these other players. I think Cason Wallace gets lost in that discussion. And with all of the guard play that the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to have to overcome to even see a team like Boston or Cleveland in the NBA Finals, they're going to need some guys like Cason Wallace, who has tried to be mismatch hunted the entire season. I've seen Boston try to do it. I've seen LA try to do it. I've seen a lot of teams try and mismatch on Cason Wallace because he's 6'2" and he's kind of slim, but he's actually really stronger than he looks, and he's a way better defender than people give him credit for. And sometimes I believe that maybe Cason Wallace is the best guy to mismatch hunt because they're going to really hide SGA, and they're probably just going to let Cason Wallace rock out 1v1 unless it's an extreme mismatch. But Cason Wallace does really well. If we take a look at some of the possessions that they've had against Boston, where they've just tried to mismatch attack Cason Wallace as much as possible, it just has not worked. And I just feel as though Cason Wallace is going to get a lot of those matchups, because if they were to play the Clippers in the first round, I think Cason Wallace would probably get the James Harden matchup, and Lou Dort will get the Kawhi Leonard matchup, or Jalen Williams will possibly get the Kawhi Leonard matchup, and Lou Dort will possibly get the James Harden matchup. But I think Cason Wallace would have the athleticism and the speed and the strength to really deal with Harden, especially with his limitations getting to the rim. And if we talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm sure Lou Dort will get that matchup against Ant, but I know Cason Wallace will get some possessions against them as well. And the last player I want to talk about is Ivica Zubac. I feel as though Ivica Zubac still does not get the credit he deserves. He's probably not going to make an All-NBA team, even though I think he's played at an All-NBA defensive caliber level. I think his drop coverage has been phenomenal, and I think his rim protection has been phenomenal. And I already talked about this in a debate that I had the other day, but I feel as though if you can limit teams from making shots at the rim and you can do it without fouling, taking away two of the most efficient shots in basketball, which is layups and free throws, you're going to have a really, really, really good time you're going to have some really good chances of making it to the next round. If we take a look at some of the stats, I should put them on the screen if I actually feel like editing, but in 2023-2024, the Los Angeles Clippers had the worst percentage from 0 to 5 feet. They lost in the first round and they went against a really good rim protecting team in the Dallas Mavericks. 2022-2023 was the Memphis Grizzlies at 55% within 0 to 5 feet, and they lost in the first round. Really good rim protector in Anthony Davis. 2021-2022 for the Minnesota Timberwolves, they shot 55% in 0 to 5 feet, and they had a really good rim protector that they were going against in Jaren Jackson Jr. Up next, the 2020-2021 Miami Heat shot 53% between 0 and 5 feet. They lost in the first round against Brook Lopez and Giannis Antetokounmpo. In 2019 and 2020, the Orlando Magic shot the worst in 0 to 5 feet against the Bucks again with Giannis and Brook Lopez. And it's not even that they're getting there on low volume. Some of these teams were top 5 in attempts in 0 to 5 feet in those series per game, and they just lost because they could not get to the rim or be as efficient at the rim, and they weren't getting to the free throw line as well because these guys weren't fouling. And I think it makes it easier for Ivica Zubac to play in drop coverage because you have really good screen navigators in Derrick Jones Jr. and in Chris Dunn. Those guys are going to have size and speed that can really neglect Ivica Zubac having to play at the level and get torched and pick a roll against teams like the Golden State Warriors if they were to play them, or the Denver Nuggets if they were to play them. And he also has that strength and rebounding aspect that's going to make him very good in the postseason as well. Now, outside of the mid-range shot, because if you take a look, he just does not shoot much of them. He only shot 23 all season. He's actually really efficient in the paint, in the restricted area, and in the paint non-restricted area. So if you take a look, he's 71% at the rim, which is great for his size. He's also shooting, I believe, 60% on floaters. If we take a look, 61, almost 62% on floaters. So when you have a guy like Ivica Zubac, when he's playing next to James Harden, he's also going to get a lot of looks where he's going to be in pick and roll, and as the roll man, not having to get all the way to the restricted area helps a lot. So when he has those push shots and those floaters and they can go in consistently, I think he could be a really good offensive player that's efficient, hits floater shots, and can play off ball. So I think Ivica Zubac is going to be really good in the playoffs. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys like this type of content, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you guys watch out for these 5 players going into the playoffs because they're going to have a very big impact if their team wins or loses. And with all that being said, make sure you follow me on TikTok at the Buzzer Sports. Make sure you follow me on X at ATB Sports 1. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe before you head out of here. And also follow me on Instagram at the Buzzer Sports. And with all that being said, I'm out. Peace.